Grooves, grooves, grooves. Everybody talks about grooves and making groovy drums. But what is the secret? Let's take a look. Number 1, and my favorite, utilizing the ghost notes. The ghost notes are basically drums, but they are really low in the volume, so you are not sure if it is there or not, but they add a lot of groove to the track itself. Examples, you can utilize it in kicks, especially on the hats, and you can utilize it even on your claps. In theory, you can utilize it anywhere. So let's start with a kick. Go to my kick, duplicate it once, and I'm gonna bring the volume down quite a bit, so it's like quite in the volume compared to the original kick. Then you have to decide where to put. Either is putting it like offbeat where the kick doesn't hit so that you can hear. You can also try somewhere else, maybe here. You can make it slightly louder. Shorter probably, so that it's like more like a ghost. Shorter but snappier. You can cut the lows of that hit a bit more. Make it even maybe darker. It's very cool actually, it works super nicely. The other parts I really love to use actually off hats. Now the same idea, let's duplicate the original hat, bring the volume down by cutting the tail. So we have another tamra. Can do one more, maybe make it even shorter. I'm gonna remove the vocal so we can hear the drums a bit better, okay? Maybe we can triple here like ch-ch-ch. Very cool, isn't it? Let's duplicate one more time and alternate. Without, with. Right, it's like they are subtle, but they are so nice to hear. How do you use this in the clap? I like to use it like a pre-clap. Take a really small piece of that. You can make it even darker. Right? Super cool. Ghost notes, experiment with them, you will find them useful. Number 2, swing and quantizations. Another subtle but really groove building idea. We have like 16 hats playing all the time. Swing means that rather than putting everything on the grid, either bring it before or after the grid, provide natural human error that we will have with the things that we play, right? I'm the lag person, I like the lag stuff a little bit because it kind of builds anticipation. But I like to do pop, 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 almost like a train, right? So you can hear difference here between these two. You don't need to, of course, do it manually all the time. You can use a swing library. In Ableton, you can just click this groove and type just, for example, in this case, 16. Find something you like. Let's say we're gonna use this one, and then you can decide how much of timing or quantization or random or velocity you wanna have. I wanna keep the velocity 0. We will come back to that. So let's get a bit like timing, and you will see here, apply. And if we zoom in, now we see that things are a bit off grid, and this will provide this natural swing to the groove. Here, right? You can do the same thing on the other hats. So this will glue the hats together much better because they are following the same swing. Right? On the claps, what I like to do oftentimes delay them slightly, especially each other. So like, right? Something like this. The third one is the velocity control. Velocity control, again from the real world, if you hit things harder, it sounds louder. If you hit things softer, it will sound softer. Very nice example of this one is on the hats. You can actually see our velocities are always same, hence the volume levels are always same. Take your shape tool. You can literally draw the velocities like you want to, going up and down, right? You can actually import the velocities from swing libraries as well, but I like this more subtle kind of stuff. Right? Very cool. And if you compare this to no swing, no velocity option, you will hear a huge difference. The same thing actually applies to the hats as well. Especially our ghost hats can actually utilize a bit like lower velocities and upper velocities to provide even more variation. Remember, these are ghosts, so they are quiet, but even the quiet could be a bit louder, right? It's super good, right? It's super nice. Sometimes you have really perfect vocals, but you don't have the back vocals. If that happens to you, I have a perfect solution. Head over to audiomet.com and go for the make harmonies. Drop your audio, pick your key. There are quite a bit to choose from. This is the EDM thickness. It is really that EDM thickness, isn't it? Female soul unison stack. Let's try that one. Oh, this is really perfect. The nice thing is you can actually either play with the editor or also you can decide on the octave. So you can build different octave back vocals as well. Click on convert, alone, together. That's so good. Good drums oftentimes have good percussions, especially a bit on the mid side, so we can feel the groove a bit more. I like to do this with ear, like here. Like, I don't know, maybe like cow bells, some type of funny sound, like tick, 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 right? Something like a bell. We can start with cow bells. We want to play with the track, so what you can do the same ideas, like get a groove there. We can still use the same groove, but it's super short, and of course it needs a bit of reverb and delays. Other thing that you can do actually, we have these bass jumps, but we don't have anything here or there. So we can use kind of a percussions a bit deeper. So the kick and bass doesn't need to do all the work themselves, right? If you don't know which sound to start with, I often go for like tom sound. From there you can actually decide if you want to change the sound. Toms are like a darker, deeper, like this kind of dark sound, right? Do you hear that? It also feeds into that ghost kick. This is too deep, but I'm going to do actually cut super lows. I'm going to also delay them slightly off grid. We can distort it a bit more. Maybe here somewhere we can use kind of call and response idea. I know a lot of people always ask which drums did I use. I always use like either my analog drums, they mean analog drums from Mercurial Tones, or like my new Onyx Melodic Techno samples. These are just bread and butter for most of my productions and many of the big producers I know of as well. We can use a bit brighter sound like this maybe. Keeping off grid helps a lot with the groove because those are the empty spaces for the percussions oftentimes. If you're enjoying the video up to now, please consider like and subscribe. It really helps a ton. The next one is syncopation, and syncopations use successive notes to emphasize something. Like here, instead of this, we syncopate the hands, emphasizing the end. I'm showing this simply because I want you to know about it. Not necessarily it is needed for these drums that we are doing, alright? You can use syncopations in your bass if you want to, or other percussions that you have. But in this case, I think this is more than enough for our case. Creative feels. When I play drums, I love feels. It just feels like I'm a real drummer. When you're programming drums, feels are very easily forgotten because you don't think about it when you program the drums. But if you want to make something a bit more like fun and groovier, you can add a bit of snare fills to emphasize that rollover of the sound. You of course don't want to have fills every time, so what we can do, duplicate this one. So now we have 4 bars. You can even do this like every 8 bars to be honest, but what I'm going to do now, just hit down, add a fill. Get a snare, any snare that you like. What I feel is, of course, first, get them off a little bit, get our groove first, and I'm gonna just change a bit less. You want to build up the snare, you don't want to have all the time the same. You would like to go like hit harder the more you go. So you want to emphasize the ending. So the same thing that I'm going to do here, you can do that here. Now we have this. And I'm gonna just EQ a bit the sound. Needs a bit of reverb, distortion probably, or a bit overdrive to glue everything together. And because we are in digital realm, we can also do things that you cannot do as a drummer, which means that clap, right? We can emphasize the beginning of the bar. If we want to make it more complicated, we can do something like we have snare here, right? And of course that clap hit here over here as well. Right? But I think in our cases it doesn't need it. And the final piece is dynamic variation. Don't be afraid of removing and adding stuff on your drums. Now we have a much shorter loop, there are not much possibilities, but immediately for me hits me here. I would like to probably remove the kick so that I can hear my fills better. Right? I'm even thinking, how can I prepare for it? I could cut all the low end, probably here, and remove the kick afterwards. It makes the whole drum loop come alive and makes it more like in your face. And the other variations that you can do is of course hats. We have already these syncopations, which is actually variation. And you can also emphasize those like a crossover points, meaning that every 2 bars, 4 bars, 8 bars, 16 bars. For example, in 2 bars over here, we can probably do like this. Which means now I can get even more creative, right? Like that. Now I have another place to use that other claps that I'm having. So I'm now trying to figure out these dynamic variations in my drums that I can utilize. Remove these claps here as well. And remove this clap as well. More variation. We are creating variation on 4-bar loop. That means that if you had something like this, let's start not with our ghost rise over here, right? You see how easily we are creating more and more dynamic variation, making everything more interesting and groovy. Maybe we can even remove the second one over here, and let's try this. That is kind of fine. Again, I'm showing everything inside the 4-bar loops, and now we are having a lot of variation going on. But think this about more stretch into 16 bars, right? Then you have a bit more balanced variation rather than now I'm putting everything inside the 4-bar loop. And once you get this point, get your groove right, you should go into making your drums fatter and mix them properly. And for that, I have a video over here. Take a look.